Speier is a Democratic Congresswoman, Speier from California. I'm sorry to butcher your name. I have a tendency to do that. I want to get your take on the investigation and where it stands now and this news that we're hearing that the president himself might be under investigation for obstruction.
Well, I don't have any independent information about that. All we know is what the president is tweeting. It's important for the president to reaffirm that he is not going to interfere with this investigation. And he does not help himself when he continues to tweet out hostile and hot words like witch hunt. This is a legitimate investigation into the Russian intervention into our campaigns and into our election cycle, whether or not Trump campaign operatives engaged with the Russians, and now this issue of whether or not the president obstructed justice. He would serve himself so much better if he would just stop tweeting.
Does this change your investigation in the Intel Committee at all?
Not at this point. We are really focused on the intervention by Russia and to the extent to which operatives in the Trump campaign were engaged with the Russians to interfere with the elections.
And speaking of which, Michael Cohen, what do you want to find out from him, Donald Trump's personal lawyer?
Well, there's probably a lot that we want to find out. A lot will depend on what he actually submits to us. But he is an integral part of the Trump orbit. And I am confident that there's many things that we're going to want to ask him that will shed a lot of light on the history of Donald Trump and the Russians and the relationships that were created through that. And I also would say that, you know, one of the things that I think his former attorney taught President Trump is, you know, a good defense is a real hard offense. And so attack is what Donald Trump has learned over the years, and he's attempting to use that same strategy here as president, and it's just not working.
Congresswoman, I want to hand it over to my colleague Craig Melvin, who wants to ask you a little bit more about what's going on in the House right now when it comes to Congressman Scalise. Craig.
Hey, Congresswoman Speier, Craig Melvin here. We should mention here that the House just unanimously passed a resolution recognizing Capitol Police, recognizing first responders for their actions at the field yesterday, also expressing hope for a full recovery for the injured. 39 years ago, you were shot in Jonestown. Since then, there have been countless more shootings. What do you think it's going to change? What do you think it's going to take to change the stance on gun safety that a lot of your colleagues seem to have? And
well, we always think there's going to be a tipping point. We thought that, you know, 20 children losing their lives in Sandy Hook would be a tipping point, and that wasn't. I mean, there's a huge divide that exists between Republicans and Democrats, and there shouldn't be. I mean, there already is a law that says there should be background checks for everyone who buys a gun, and yet you don't have to do a background check if you buy them online or at gun shows. There's issues around making guns safer by using smart technology and having the opportunity to do research on gun violence. And yet those are simple, straightforward. No one wants to take anyone's gun away from them. We recognize the importance, and yet we can't seem to find common ground. Hopefully, with this horrible tragedy, we'll find some common ground that we can work together on.
Had it not been for Congressman Scalise's security detailed yesterday, it would have been a full-fledged massacre there, which has a lot of folks asking, are our congressmen, our congresswomen, are they safe enough? Do you feel as if there needs to be some sort of change in policy with regards to how you guys are protected when you're just out and about, when you're not under the dome behind me?
Well, I would say that that is a serious question that's being asked today, and our leaders are discussing it. Whenever there's a large gathering of members, I think they do become a target, and I think we need to rethink whether or not they deserve to have some level of security. The extent to which our homes are insecure is something else that needs to be addressed as well.
Congresswoman Jackie Speier. Congresswoman, always appreciate your insight. Thank you. And Katie, I know you're going to have much more on the other big stories.